In the shadowed edges after creation's first war, a figure emerged from the ashes of genocide and glory. A horseman whose gun smoke and wit cut through the darkness as surely as his bullets. Strife, born of the Nephilim, carved his legend through worlds left broken and bloodied. His past is cloaked in secrecy and regret. Some speak of his deeds in whispers. Others only remember the trail of destruction left in his wake. Today, his story will be told in every moment, every deed, and every hard-won scar. I am Vigil, and this is Video Game Lore. Ready your aim, steel your resolve, and follow me into the legend of Strife. Strife entered the world as a son of the Nephilim, that infamous and doomed race, whose hands were stained crimson from the slaughter of countless worlds. Like his brothers and sister, Strife participated in the Nephilim's campaign of destruction, their genocidal crusade leaving entire civilizations in ruin, their legacy one of horror and awe. While much of Strife's life before becoming a horseman remains lost to time, what little he has revealed is dark and blood-soaked, a past he rarely speaks of openly. At one point, Strife undertook a mission so terrible that he discarded the dagger and vault, casting it away in shame and unable to bear the memory of what he had done. In time, Strife joined his siblings, death, fury, and war, and growing weary of what their people had become. Recognizing the Nephilim as a threat to the cosmic balance itself, the four of them abandoned their brethren, choosing to swear allegiance to the Charred Council and return for power that no mortal or immortal could fathom. During the ancient ceremony that bound them to the council, Strife watched as fury's impatience erupted, her relentlessness nearly disrupting the pact before it could be completed. Once the pact was sealed, the council demanded that the Four Horsemen consult with one of their oldest servants. The Horsemaster, a being as mysterious as he was ancient, awaited them in the far fields. The Horsemaster's first command was for the horsemen to cast aside their weapons, instructing them the primal phantom horses they sought to tame would yield only to sheer will and not the edge of a blade. War, ever proud, turned the event into a contest among his siblings, proposing a wager to see who would tame the first horse. Strife and Fury mocked War's bravado, needling him about his endless boasting, but the Horsemaster cut them all short, rebuking them for their childish bickering. After death had tamed despair, the others followed suit. Strife fixed his gaze on the wildest of the herd, mastering the beast with grit and guile, and named his steed Mayhem, a companion as fierce and unpredictable as Strife himself. The horseman's first command was as unthinkable as it was final, to wipe out every last Nephilim, their own kin, from the face of creation. In the final confrontation, they met their people on the fields of Eden. The horsemen carried out their orders with ruthless efficiency. Yet, as the carnage faded and the horsemen stood victorious, Strife was left with a heavy conscience, guilt gnawing at his soul for the slaughter of his own kind. As years passed, Strife could not silence the questions in his mind. He wondered if it had truly been necessary to erase the Nephilim, admitting that their attempt to seize Eden was wrong. The act haunted him, a shadow he could never entirely escape. Not too long after the slaughter of Eden, traveling to an unknown world with death and fury, Strife and his siblings were tasked with stopping War, who had lost control. In the heat of their confrontation, Strife warned his siblings that they needed to get Chaos Eater away from War. When War, blinded by rage, impaled Death with his blade, Strife didn't hesitate. He drew his guns and pointed them at War, threatening him. "It's a good thing Death's damn near invulnerable, but if you don't stand down, I will shoot to kill. You don't have Death's luck." Later, the horsemen rode together into the heart of the Dark Kingdom, Hell itself, bearing a message for Samael. As they entered the infernal domain, Fury's instincts warned her something was wrong. The silence was unnatural. Strife, ever eager for excitement, hoped that they would stumble into an ambush, craving the action it would bring. When they took their leave, Strife sent a message of his own, shooting a demon in the foot as a warning to any who would dare stand against the horsemen. Decades later, Strife strode into the lair of Malgros the Defiler, surrounded on all sides by the demon's minions. Malgros recognized the horseman, greeted Strife, and bragged that he had met Fury. Strife made his purpose clear. By order of the council for conspiring with Lucifer and crimes against humanity, I am here to deliver your sentence, death. Malgros burst into laughter, mocking Strife's audacity to threaten him alone in his own domain. The demon lord began to count down, promising to desecrate Strife's corpse and feed the remains to his underlings if he was still standing when the count was done. Before Malgros could even say two, Strife finished for him, pulling the triggers and putting a bullet through each of the demon's 3 heads. "Sorry, I was in a hurry," Strife quipped as the demon minions surged forward. Suddenly, a meteor crashed through the lair, blasting the demons aside. As the smoke cleared, War emerged, prompting Strife to say, "Oh yeah, and I'm not alone." Together, Strife and War completed their mission, cutting down any demon foolish enough to stand in their way. After their mission to kill Malgros, Strife and War were summoned to stand before the Charred Council. The ancient arbiters, their voice echoing with stone authority, told them not to mourn what had been done. The council declared that the horsemen's actions in Eden, the massacre of their own kin, were not just necessary, they were a grand victory for the balance and for the horsemen themselves. Strife, unable to swallow the hollow praise, shot a look of concern at War, questioning whether any of this could truly be called a victory. War, haunted by his own doubts, asked for the whereabouts of Death and Fury. The council dismissed his question, telling him their location was unimportant. Instead, they turned their attention to a new threat. They informed Strife and War that Lucifer was plotting the downfall of humanity, and though mortals were weak, their fate was crucial to the balance. The council commanded the two horsemen to seek out Samael at Blackstone Keep, warning them that Samael was suspected of plotting with Lucifer against the balance itself. They instructed Strife and War to demonstrate what happened when one defied the council's will. Strife and War arrived at Samael's fortress, finding it under siege. Strife noted that few demons could muster such a force, and deduced it would not be a quick and simple job. He suggested they avoid the front entrance, seeking another way in. As they fought through waves of demons, Strife wondered why the council had sent just the two of them, not all four. War replied that the others were occupied, and Strife speculated that perhaps this was a test. Climbing the outer wall, Strife wondered aloud if Moloch was the mastermind behind the attack, but questioned the motive. War replied that the demon lords rarely needed a reason for bloodshed. Strife remarked that Samael better have something worthwhile to share, or the council would not be pleased. Making their way along the walls, they encountered a Hallowfiend. The battle was fierce, but the two horsemen worked in unison to bring the beast down. Moving on, they took an elevator to the back gate of Blackstone Keep. Within the fortress's black heart, Samael sat atop his throne, idly swirling blood in a goblet and pondering whether he should have accepted Lucifer's bargain. As a demon attempted to warn Samael of the horseman's arrival, Strife's gun barked, a single shot dropping the demon in his tracks. Samael greeted the horseman, asking what brought them to his domain. War informed Samael that the council suspected him of conspiring with Lucifer against both humanity and the balance. Samael seemed amused by the accusation, but pointed out he was a bit preoccupied, under siege at the very moment. Strife asked how Samael had let Moloch get the upper hand, and Samael replied that he could hazard a guess. Suddenly, a monstrous demon burst into the room, Moloch riding atop its head. Moloch bellowed that he had come for Samael's head, and that Samael should have seen this coming. Unimpressed, Samael told the horseman to seek out his associate in the void, sending them through a portal as he locked swords with Moloch. Strife and War found themselves in the void, where War discovered the Vorpal blade. As they explored, they came upon a serpent hole. War asked Strife if he recognized its owner, and Strife replied that he did, but that individual was entirely untrustworthy. Entering the portal, they arrived in another sanctum within the void, where Vulgrim awaited them, feigning surprise at their arrival. Vulgrim asked Strife if he had brought any souls, especially those of his brethren, for the demon to feast upon. War warned Vulgrim to watch his tongue, threatening violence if he interfered. Vulgrim, unbothered, reminded them that the council's authority meant nothing in the void, and that killing them would strand them forever. Strife, wanting to cut through the banter, insisted Vulgrim get to the point. Vulgrim revealed that Lucifer was up to something, forging pacts with his enemies, offering them their heart's desires in exchange for their loyalty. Vulgrim offered a deal. If the horseman retrieved an artifact that he desired, he would share what he knew. Strife would have preferred to kill the demon, but Vulgrim assured him a partnership would be more lucrative. Vulgrim created a serpent hole, warning that the artifact's guardian would not welcome them. War and Strife entered the portal and arrived at the slag, beginning their search. As they made their way through the slag, Strife questioned why only the two of them had been sent, and War answered that the council had their reasons. Strife joked about War's attire, to which War grumbled about Strife's constant jokes. Strife tried to tell War a knock-knock joke, but War, as always, didn't get it, prompting Strife to call him hopeless. The two horsemen continued, unlocking vault doors by slaying demons. Upon opening the final glyph, a slag demon emerged from his cage. Together, Strife and War fought and defeated the creature. Inside the vault, the artifact awaited. Strife wondered aloud what Vulgrim would pay for such a prize, and War said the demon would only get it if he kept his end of the bargain. Returning through the serpent hole, they handed the artifact to Vulgrim, who excitedly told them to look closer. The artifact bursts open, releasing the demon Dees, who expressed relief at her freedom and commented that Vulgrim's deal with her was still valid. Strife asked if this was how Vulgrim treated all his partners, but War said it didn't matter. They needed information. Inside the Inferno Vault, Strife and War saw the Ember Core was being used to forge weapons against the angels, mocking the Maker's craft. Strife suggested that they destroy the place, but War insisted they focus on the mission. The horsemen battled through lava-choked corridors and demon guardians. In the heart of the vault, they faced the Legion Bolt Spitter. Strife's precision shooting proved decisive as they defeated the demon. They pressed on until they reached the Ember Core's chamber. Strife, wary of a trap, suggested War be the one to grab the artifact. As War seized the core, the vault began to tremble. Strife was not surprised by the danger, but War reminded him they'd already killed everything in the vault. Strife commented that he expected trouble, but it was more fun this way anyway. When they returned to the Void, Vulgrim explained that the Ember Core could empower an object called the Scrying Eye, allowing them to track Lucifer's movements. He sent the horsemen to the Icespine Cavern to recover the eye. As they arrived, Strife noted that Hell wasn't as bad as he thought, but War told him to focus. Strife admitted Hell was bigger than he thought, and War explained that the longer they delayed, the more demons Lucifer gathered. Strife joked that he didn't envy Lucifer with the council after him, and War replied that Lucifer had broken the balance. Strife pointed out that they didn't really know what Lucifer had done, and War told him not to question the council. The two horsemen finished lighting the beacons and opened the portal to the temple. Inside the temple, Strife found the Void Bomb, which allowed them to create portals, and after fighting through more demons and solving puzzles, they claimed the Scrying Eye and returned to Vulgrim. As the eye was activated, Samael appeared, explaining he had been cleaning up after Moloch and denied any part in Lucifer's schemes. Strife joked about Vulgrim sending them all over hell. Vulgrim announced that Lucifer had recently visited Mammon. Strife and War head to the Horde, where Mammon had kept all his treasure. After defeating a gatekeeper, the two head down an elevator and deep into the vault. The two horsemen marveled at the mountains of treasure, and Strife joked about stealing some of the gold, but War threatened to cut off his hand, with Strife saying he's the last person who should be making that joke, and then realizing it was an actual threat. As they searched for the vault key, Strife discovered an object from his past, a dagger, and was deeply shaken. War noticed Strife's unusual silence and asked about the object, but Strife brushed it off as old junk. War pressed him about it, but Strife told him not to worry about it, and that they just needed to find something to kill. After finding the vault keys and defeating the Legion Siege Master and unlocking the vault, they entered to find artifacts from Eden, proof that Lucifer had breached the Forbidden World. Strife had discovered a rune map. As the two of them head back to the Void to face Vulgrim and Samael. Samael acknowledged Mammon's cunning, noting that the demon had managed to evade notice for so long. War told Samael that Lucifer must have found a way to access Eden, since Mammon's vault overflowed with artifacts from the Lost World. Samael confessed that the situation was troubling, given the secrets that lie in Eden and the fact that it was supposed to be sealed off. Vulgrim assured them that he would use the Scrying Eye to uncover how Lucifer was breaching Eden's defenses. Strife then handed Vulgrim the rune map they had uncovered, and Vulgrim revealed it marked the location of a secret vault belonging to Mammon. War declared they would confront Mammon and extract the truth from him. Strife quipped to Samael that he was enjoying their company, but Samael, ever elusive, told the horsemen that the council stifled their true powers, and that he could help them release it, if they felt the potential within themselves. Samael explained that the guilt they had both harbored over the Nephilim slaughter in Eden was used by the council to suppress their greatest strength, War's chaos form and Strife's anarchy form. Strife, never one for long speeches, joked about Samael's theatrics, which only provoked Samael's anger. As the demon's fury erupted, he unleashed the horsemen's dormant powers, freeing them to use their true forms. After feeling a sense of pain, War demanded to know what Samael had done, but Samael merely told them to unleash that power when confronting Mammon and the other masters of hell. Strife then wondered aloud why he suddenly felt the urge to kill everything he saw, and Samael jabbed that the council would be pleased with this new development. Strife and War set out from Mammon's hidden vault, determined to end the demon's schemes. Inside, they found Mammon in a panic, frightened and pleading for Lucifer's promised protection. The demon tried to bribe the horsemen, hurling handfuls of gold at them, but Strife, gun raised, told Mammon that if he thought they could be bought off, he was mistaken. Still, Strife hesitated for a moment, catching sight of a golden rocking horse that caught his fancy, before tossing it aside and shooting Mammon. War admonished Strife, saying they could have questioned the demon. Suddenly, Mammon's laughter echoed as his body faded, revealing the demon was only an illusion. His voice, now disembodied, taunted the horseman, his eyes glowing green from the mounds of gold, promising that his pact with Lucifer would not be undone. Strife and War fought the real Mammon, who wielded the power of Eden's relics against them. After a brutal fight, they defeated the demon at last. As Mammon lay dying, Strife asked if there were any more tricks up his sleeve. War demanded to know Lucifer's intentions, and Strife added that if Mammon talked, he might just live. Mammon sneered that Lucifer had promised him treasures beyond imagining, and that their threats meant nothing. Strife, exacerbated with the demon's arrogance, shot Mammon in the head. Strife said I guess he didn't feel like talking, as War remarked that Strife would have just killed him anyway. As they prepared to leave, Strife wondered whether leaving Mammon's treasure behind would allow Samael to build his army. War's only response was a silent snarl, as Strife conceded, saying he was taking the rocking horse as a souvenir, only for War to knock it from his hands. The two of them returned to the void to report to Samael and Vulgrim. Samael greeted the horsemen, congratulating their victory, as War said Mammon's death was inevitable. War confirmed that the weapons Mammon had used were from Eden, which only deepened their suspicions. Samael delighted in Mammon's demise, and wanted to repay the horsemen for their effort. He told them that Vulgrim had tracked Lucifer to another of Hell's masters. War demanded a name, and Samael, pressing them about their comfort in working with him, revealed Lucifer had sought Belial's aid. He instructed them to speak to Vulgrim for a way into Belial's realm. Strife suspected the cost would be high. Vulgrim explained to the horsemen he had mapped the route, but needed something from the horsemen, a talisman from the arena, which would help him find paths faster. He claimed the arena's masters didn't know its true value. War and Strife, ever ready for a challenge, agreed to fight in the arena and retrieve the artifact. After besting their foes and claiming the talisman, they returned to Vulgrim and Dees in the void. Dees congratulated them on their victory, and Strife handed the talisman to Vulgrim, asking its purpose. Vulgrim explained it once belonged to Belial and would help him track the demon. Strife, eager to be done, said the sooner Belial was dead, the better. Vulgrim said he could only send them to Belial's domain, not directly to the demon. War was confused, as Belial is not known to have his own domain. Vulgrim insisted they speak with Samael to find out the reason. As they approached Samael, he explained that Lucifer had granted Belial 3 Dreadwalker guardians and a realm of his own to manufacture a weapon for the Dark Prince. Strife laughed at Belial's need for protection, but Samael warned that the Dreadwalkers made him nearly invincible, and that the horsemen must defeat them before facing Belial. The mission took War and Strife to the Realm of Decay, where War declared the Dreadwalkers would die that day. Strife agreed, eager to end the task. Confronting the first Dreadwalker, the Dread Knight, the horsemen fought fiercely, Strife's pistol delivering the killing blow. As they pressed on, Strife mused about the mindless obedience of the demons and questioned whether they too were merely pawns of the Council. War threatened to silence Strife for his doubts, but Strife deflected with a joke. As they continued through the decay, War recovered the Tremor Gauntlet to aid their journey. Deeper in the realm, they faced the Dread Baron, the second Guardian, and again Strife's marksmanship proved decisive. At last, they confronted the strongest of the 3, the Dread Lord, who claimed he was unbeatable. Strife and War proved him wrong, felling the giant and moving on. Strife wondered aloud why Lucifer would trust Belial, and War replied that the Dark Prince was always scheming. Strife agreed they would likely discover the reason too late. Returning to the void, Strife told Samael about the weapon, and Samael explained that Lucifer had opened a portal to Eden, poisoning its waters. War, enraged, insisted they act immediately, and when Vulgrim tried to warn them, War demanded a serpent hole at once. Upon entering Belial's corrupted domain, War commented on the abomination before them. Strife made a joke about War's clothes, but War insisted the balance would be destroyed if Eden's waters continued to be poisoned. Strife claimed he used humor to keep War calm, referencing a past incident where War lost his arm. War warned Strife that it took all 3 of them to restrain him last time and asked him if he'd like to try alone, to which Strife said, "Oh hell no," and backed off. They pressed on, encountering the portal Lucifer had created. War vowed to kill the Dark Prince for his sacrilege, while Strife lamented the consistent reminders of Eden. War replied that the Nephilim's fate was sealed by Absalom's actions, and Strife wondered if the council had other motives for their genocide. The two horsemen crossed a river of poison as they attempted to shut down the Blight Cannon, causing the poisoning of Eden's waters. Strife transformed into his anarchy form, obliterating the machine. War admitted it felt good to destroy it, but insisted Belial still needed to die. Strife agreed, and they left the realm back to the Void. As the horsemen returned to the Void, Samael told them they could now take on Belial and retrieve answers about Lucifer's plot from him. The horsemen left with haste, and as they arrived at Belial's lair, they found the demon feasting on a pile of corpses. Belial mocked them, asking if more morsels had arrived to join his feast. The horsemen wasted no time, attacking with a fury that left Belial reeling. Strife delivered the final blow with his static shot and jokingly asked if he enjoyed his last meal. War suggested they cut Belial open, but the demon, terrified, begged for his life, offering them an artifact that would allow entry to Eden. War agreed to spare him, but warned that he might regret the decision. Strife grumbled about holding the vomit-covered gem. As they departed, Belial cursed Lucifer, but the Dark Prince's voice echoed, mocking him for his failure and promising endless torment. Strife and War returned to Samael, delivering the key to Eden. Samael asked about Belial's fate, and Strife replied that he left the demon gurgling. Samael was disappointed they hadn't killed Belial, but promised to open a path to Eden. Strife and War begrudgingly head to Eden. As they ride through the burning wasteland, War dismounted ruined and gazed at the charred bodies of their fallen Nephilim kin, remarking that Eden still burned. Strife, atop Mayhem, called it a tomb, insisting that no one should ever set foot here. Suddenly, the corpses of their brethren rose, calling for War and Strife to join them in death. War declared it impossible, but Strife insisted Lucifer must be behind their resurrection. Suddenly, a voice rang out, Astarte, once an angelic guardian of Eden, now corrupted. She denounced the horsemen, vowing to bury them with the dead. War and Strife mounted their steeds and fought Astarte and the undead Nephilim. In the end, they struck Astarte down. Strife, in a cold rage, pointed his gun at her, calling her a monster for turning their kin into puppets. War intervened, warning Strife to keep his wits, reminding him the council would want answers. Astarte, defiant to the end, called them traitors and butchers, accusing them of killing their own people in the name of the balance. Astarte continued and started to reveal something from Strife's past. War, unable to bear her accusations, silenced her and cut off her head. As they prepared to move on, Strife tried to explain Astarte's words, but War said he would rather hear the truth from Strife himself. Strife promised to share everything someday, and War replied that he would do the same. The horsemen then returned to the Void, telling them what they had saw. Samael, sensing Lucifer's involvement in the whole scheme, sent the horsemen back to Eden in search of the Aether Spark, an angelic relic that would further help them in their journey. The horsemen pressed on to Eden, soon coming across corrupted angels and battling them. Suddenly, Abaddon appeared from above, still living in Eden. The Archangel, upon seeing Strife and War, demanded to know how they dared to return to the Forsaken Paradise. Strife, ever the sharp-tongued one, remarked on Abaddon's inability to escape Eden, while War asked whether or not he had been trapped there since the war. Abaddon revealed that he was charged with guarding Eden and protecting its secrets from invaders, including the horsemen themselves. War explained that they were not there as invaders, but to hunt down Lucifer, who had sown corruption among Abaddon's own ranks and even turned Astarte, his greatest warrior. Strife informed Abaddon that Astarte had already been slain, and the Archangel, though pained, thanked them, admitting that she was more than a mere soldier to him, and that he might not have had the strength to destroy her himself. Yet the corruption persisted among his troops. Abaddon then asked the horsemen to help him by destroying the corrupted angels that continued to threaten Eden, while he himself sought out the source of the corruption. War agreed to assist the Archangel, provided it did not impede their mission. The horsemen then moved to activate a bridge leading deeper into Eden, crossing it to the chamber rumored to contain the Aether Spark, also known as the Elder Stone. War cautioned Strife that the artifact was powerful enough to reshape worlds, instructing them to handle it with care, to which Strife replied jokingly that he could handle great power and great responsibility. With the Elder Stone in hand, War suggested their next step would be to return it to Vulgrim. Before they could leave, Abaddon appeared once more, asking for their help in purging Eden of corruption. Strife, growing weary of endless tasks, was hesitant, but War saw the opportunity to finally bring peace to their fallen kin. Strife, however, confessed he didn't want to linger in Eden any longer. Worried that every moment lost, Lucifer slipped further from their grasp. Abaddon insisted he had finally tracked the source of the corruption and needed the Horsemen to destroy it. War agreed, and they began ascending the spire. As they climbed, Strife reflected on the horror of what they had done to the Nephilim, their own people, in the past. War told him it had been necessary. Their kind had threatened the balance. Strife, angered, accused War of pretending not to care that they had killed their own. But War replied that Absalom had sealed the Nephilim's fate when he attacked Eden, and that had they not acted, the council would have sent someone else to do it. Strife wondered aloud if it had been a test, a way for the council to see how far the Horsemen could push them. War mused that perhaps it was a test of loyalty. As always, Strife assured War he had his back, and War replied that they would ride together until oblivion. At the summit, they were confronted by the Nephilim Vindicator, a revenant who condoned Strife for what he had done. She summoned more Nephilim spirits to attack, but the Horsemen dispatched them. As she fell, she begged for her mother's forgiveness. The two horsemen then pressed onward, passing a shimmering waterfall where Strife paused, removing the old dagger he'd found in Mammon's vault. He dropped it into the water, saying it belonged among the dead. War, noticing the gesture, asked why the dagger was important. Strife admitted he had used it for the worst kind of job, that before he was a horseman, he was just a killer who enjoyed the hunt, and that the council had chosen him for that darkness. War assured them that none of them were who they used to be, but Strife insisted he needed to know why he was still being asked to kill. War replied he had every right to ask questions, to which Strife, surprised, said it was a rare moment of agreement between them. War suggested they finish their business in Eden and leave it behind. When the horsemen reached the spire, they confronted the creature Griner, who was causing the corruption to spread. The two horsemen fought ferociously and defeated the creature, and seeing that their work was done, and decided to return and report to Samael in the void. Samael greeted the horsemen and told them that Lucifer's business in Eden was done, and he had already given it to one of Hell's masters, Dagon, the drowned king. War, angered, demanded that they go now and destroy the demon. But Samael warned him that Dagon uses the Stormcaller to bring his flood and wash away Eden. The two of them agree they must go and dispatch the Stormcaller, as Vulgrim opens a serpent hole for them and they return to Eden. The horsemen arrive back on Eden, now covered in endless storm and lightning. Abaddon approaches them, telling them that the Stormcaller is responsible and hides behind a magical bear, and that in order for them to enter, they have to defeat his 3 shaman. War and Strife thank the Archangel for the information as they press on. The two horsemen search the area and defeat the 3 shaman, one by one. As the horsemen make their way back to kill the Stormcaller, Strife wonders if they shouldn't just let Eden drown, stating that there was nothing really left but ruins. War says that he shares his brother's sentiment, but says that no demon should ever defile this place, and that Eden should remain as a reminder to themselves that they should be better. The two horsemen leave as they head to the Stormcaller, the shaman responsible for the endless deluge threatening to drown Eden. With a battle cry, War shouted that they were the storm, and Strife, reveling in War's rage, unleashed his anarchy form, tearing through the Stormcaller's defenses. With one final devastating blow, the horsemen ended the threat and returned to the void to speak to Samael. Samael greeted their return, noting their victory. War asked if Lucifer's pathway was finally sealed, to which Vulgrim replied that his skills should no longer be doubted. Samael said by killing the shaman that they had weakened Dagon, and instructed the horsemen to finish him and discover what he knew. The horsemen returned to Eden, to Dagon's location, where a pool of water erupted as Dagon, the self-proclaimed drowned king, rose from the depths. Dagon denounced them as heretics and declared that Lucifer had given him Eden. He taunted them to attack so they could be cleansed. The battle was epic. Waves of water crashed, lightning stormed down, and the horsemen fought with every weapon and form at their disposal. In the end, War's sword cut Dagon down. As the demon died, he grabbed War, threatening to pull him under. War shouted for Strife's help, but Strife just laughed, saying War needed a bath, only to be grabbed himself and pulled under. Underwater, Strife fired his pistols until Dagon finally perished, and the horsemen surfaced, joking about their cleansing, as they then entered a serpent hole and returned to the void. Upon their return, Samael commented on their stench. Strife, ever the jokester, claimed it was Dagon's guts. Samael then reminded them that he was doing all this for their sake, but Strife doubted his motives, predicting that at some point, their arrangement would stop being beneficial, and that's when things would get interesting. Samael laughed, urging them to move against Moloch. Samael then explained that Moloch's army in the Red Waste, fueled by massive war machines, needed to be destroyed. War then accused Samael of wanting the army gone to cement his own power. Samael replied that their interests aligned: destroy everything in the Red Waste and kill the foreman who had betrayed him for Moloch. Strife agreed, eager for another fight. The horsemen then entered the Red Waste, War noting that they needed to destroy the machines fueling Moloch's power. Strife, excited for action, agreed. They tore through the realm, toppling machines and slaying demons, finally reaching the excavation site where the foreman hid behind a giant war engine. Fighting their way to the core, they destroyed the machine and ascended the lift to confront the foreman. Upon crossing the bridge, they found the demon who mocked Samael, calling him a pissant and saying he was nothing compared to Moloch. Strife laughed, promising that he's going to relay the insult, then transformed into his anarchy form and swiftly killed the foreman. War dismissed the demon's defiance as meaningless, while Strife celebrated the rare sight of war being fired up. The horsemen returned through the void and speak to Samael. Strife taunted the demon by repeating the foreman's insult of calling him a pissant. Samael warned Strife not to push his luck, and that when all this was over, he wanted to make sure he was on his good side. Samael then told them that Moloch's near invincibility came from a blood mantle, an artifact Lucifer had somehow created and given to Moloch. War was shocked, as the blood mantle was thought lost to the ages. Samael then instructed them to destroy the blood mantle and Moloch's armory. War and Strife arrive in the realm, as the two of them fought their way into the armory, destroying weapons and battling waves of demons. The two of them finally reached the blood mantle. Strife commented on the lack of heavy resistance, only for a horde of demons to appear, fulfilling his wish for more violence. Strife shot the blood mantle, shattering it, and War hoped it would remain lost forever. Returning to Samael, War declared the blood mantle destroyed. Samael, triumphant, said Moloch could now be killed. Strife and War arrive at Moloch's stronghold. The two of them continue to battle through demons, as Strife asks if he ever gets tired of doing so, to which War simply responds, no. Strife then jokingly agrees he feels the same, as a large meteor begins to descend from the sky. War asks what it could possibly be, and as it crashes down, Samael emerges, ripping through demons. Strife acknowledges that Samael sure does know how to make an entrance, as the three of them begin to continue to slaughter the demon hordes. Once the battle has ended, Samael opens the door for the horsemen, allowing them to go first. As the three of them approach Moloch, he tells them that he's saved them the trouble of having to hunt them down themselves. War threatens the demon, telling Moloch will reveal all of Lucifer's plan when he's finished. Samael flies atop a pillar, saying that he will enjoy the view from above. Moloch jumps down from above, telling the horsemen that they can try their best, but when he's done with them, he will have proved his superiority. War, Strife, and Moloch clash in an epic battle, as they use every ability and every attack possible to take the demon down. Strife, in his anarchy form, and War in his chaos form, finally slew Moloch. Samael, delighted, instructed them to decapitate the demon. Moloch, dying, warned that Lucifer's plan was already completed and that they should be wary of the company they seek, as he looks up at Samael. Moloch asks Samael if he had told them about the Animus yet, as Samael quickly jumps down and crushes Moloch's skull before he can elaborate. Samael said the demon would not stop talking, as Strife wondered what secrets had died with him. War demanded to know what the Animus was, and stated that Samael had been lying to them the whole time. Samael said he owed them the truth, but he wouldn't discuss it there. He opened a portal into the void, as all three of them returned. Back in the void, War confronted Samael, accusing him of lying. Samael claimed he had only admitted inconvenient truths. He revealed that after the Nephilim massacre, Lilith, mad with grief, asked for his help to seek revenge on the Council and the Horsemen, as well as humanity who had now fled to Earth. Samael refused, not wanting to draw the Council's scrutiny, so Lilith turned to Lucifer instead, who agreed to help her. Together, they created the Animus to corrupt humanity, making deals with the Masters of Hell and collecting their souls as fuel upon their death. Samael explained that Lucifer had offered him the same pact, but he had refused it. Strife, outraged, demanded to know why Samael had kept this secret, and War asked what role Samael played in this scheme. Samael insisted he was innocent, saying that the horsemen were merely following the council's orders and that all he did was put them on the right path. Samael warned that Lucifer had taken the Animus to Earth, where it had been corrupting humanity. War demanded to be sent to Earth, and Samael obliged, telling them it had been a pleasure working with them. Strife and War arrived on Earth, looking down at a burning village where humans now corrupted by the Animus turned on each other in a frenzy of violence. Strife asked War what they should do, and War replied that humanity's fate was now up to the Council. Strife protested, saying they had helped Lucifer bring about this catastrophe. Suddenly, a child appeared behind them, possessed by Lucifer, who mocked humanity's former search for meaning and boasted that now, thanks to him, they could feel every forbidden lust and fear that the Creator had denied them. Lucifer says that now humanity can reach their full potential and create a third kingdom that could actually be reckoned with. Strife, now pointing his gun at the child's head, asked how far the corruption had spread. Lucifer taunted him and said he wasn't sure, and asked if he would kill all the humans to see if he could stop the spread. As Lucifer vanished, the child's eyes filled with fear. Strife told the boy to run as far away from the village as he could, and then, with heavy hearts, the horsemen did what they had to do, killing as many corrupted humans as they could. They returned to the council, who summoned death, fury, and the rulers of heaven and hell. The council praised War and Strife for their service, saying that though humanity had been forever changed, the survivors continued to endure thanks to the horsemen's actions. The council acknowledged that killing the corrupted humans was difficult, but assured them that it was necessary for the greater good. In a solemn ceremony, the council announced the forging of the 7 seals of the apocalypse, 3 from heaven, 3 from hell, and the final, the 7th seal, from the council's own wisdom. The council says anyone who breaks this pact will feel the full wrath of the council and the 4 horsemen. Samael looked on with a smile as Abaddon watched with hatred in his eyes. Thousands of years later, Strife stood beside his siblings as Death recounted the tale of the grand abominations. Strife, annoyed at being kept in the dark, made sarcastic remarks, only stopping when Death threatened to use his tongue as a raw material. Strife was the least disturbed by the revelation that the weapons were forged from the corpses of the Raveline. When Death refused to tell the council where the Abomination Vault was hidden, Strife watched as Death defied the council's fury. The council ordered the horsemen to resolve the matter swiftly, and Strife was eager to begin. But Death ordered Strife, Fury, and War to stay behind, much to their frustration. Strife mocked Death's attempt to protect them and accused him of keeping secrets. Their argument escalated, and Strife drew his gun on Death, but Death stood firm, and Strife eventually lowered his weapon. After Death left, Strife, Fury, and War debated their feelings. Strife and Fury agreed to stay put, while War chose to follow Death. War later told Death that Strife was sulking because of how Death had shamed him. Eventually, Dust was sent to summon Strife and Fury, but the council kept them in reserve, sending Azrael instead. Later, Strife and Fury were tasked with hunting down Hadramon and Belisatra, but Death and War lured them to the vault and defeated them themselves. During the premature apocalypse, the council claimed Strife was tending to other matters, likely hoping he'd be killed. Whatever mission Strife was on, he finished it quickly or abandoned it. A decade into the apocalypse, and at some point in time, Strife infiltrated Haven, the Maker Sanctuary, disguised as a human known as Jones. He was careful to hide his identity from both the Makers and the humans. At Haven, he encountered Fury, likely for the first time in centuries. Strife called Fury out for disregard of the humans, caught between heaven and hell, while secretly voicing his own disillusionment with the Council's commands. Strife kept watch over Fury's quest to slay the 7 deadly sins, offering commentary and snide remarks whenever she interacted with Jones. After Envy defeated Fury, Strife looked after his unconscious sister, greeting her with snarky remarks when she woke up. When Fury lamented her failures, Strife consoled her, comparing her struggle to that of humanity, assuring her that she had truly lived and that hope remained. He advised her to seek Ulthane when she was ready to continue. When Fury left to confront Envy and the Council, Haven came under siege, led by the Destroyer. Strife, Ulthane, and the Makers helped Fury and the remaining humans escape. He listened as Fury addressed the humans, explaining how Heaven, Hell, and the Council all wished to see humanity destroyed, blaming them for the universe's woes. Strife nodded in agreement, recognizing Fury's spiritual growth. He stayed behind the fight, rushing past Fury with his guns as they exchanged glances. In the heat of battle, Strife gunned down demons with uncanny accuracy. revealing his true identity after killing a trauma demon. Before Fury left through the reflecting pool, Strife gave her a final grateful look. After the battle, Strife's fate was unknown, but he left his guns with the Makers. Roughly 90 years later, after the shattering of the Seven Seals, Strife was summoned alongside Fury and Death to join war for the approaching apocalypse, not knowing what their future holds. Strife stands as one of the last Nephilim and Horsemen of the Apocalypse. His supernatural abilities both awe-inspiring and terrifying. His speed and acrobatics are unmatched among the Horsemen, allowing him to leap great distances and perform somersaults in midair. Relying on agility and precision, Strife's fighting style is centered on exploiting the weaknesses of his enemies and striking with surgical accuracy. Strife is a master of magic as well, able to disguise himself as a human and vanish at will. His marksmanship is peerless, even among the Horsemen. No one can match his eye for detail. He wields the twin revolvers, Mercy and Redemption, each shot delivered with lethal accuracy. As the keenest scout, Strife often acts as the eyes of the Horsemen on their missions. His supernatural firearms can be loaded with a variety of elemental ammunition, charged shots that pierce even the toughest armor, static rounds that unleash arcs of lightning and slow their targets, gravity bullets that create a pulling vortex, nature rounds that burst in a wide spray and sometimes spawn health-giving orbs, energy beams that deal rapid, continuous damage, and lava rounds that stick to enemies and explode after a delay. When forced into close combat, Strife wields dual sabers, curved blades perfect for dispatching foes who get too close. He transitions seamlessly between guns and blades, or wields one of each, and his armor's claws add a further layer of lethality, allowing him to slash and stab enemies at will. At his full strength, Strife dons the legendary Abyssal armor, its formidable protection unmatched by any other. The black four-barreled pistol Mercy would eventually pass to Ulthane and then to war. The white revolver-style pistol Redemption, lost after the battle for Haven, would eventually surface in the Forge Lands and was given to Death by Elia before heading to the Drenchfort. Strife's arsenal also includes the Void Bomb, a demonic artifact functioning like the Voidwalker spell, opening portals and drawing enemies towards explosive ends. The Aether Spark, an angelic relic from Eden, can solve electrical puzzles and stun foes. For crowd control, Strife deploys caltrops, explosive spikes perfect for disrupting enemy ranks. His shadowy magic lets him leave behind shadow clones, which rapid fire at enemies, and with World Ender, he fuses his pistols to unleash a devastating blast. When battle reaches its fever pitch, Strife calls upon his Anarchy form, a monstrous transformation into a horned black giant with a scorpion tail, and a minigun for a hand, becoming a harbinger of pure destruction. With Shadow Flight, wings of darkness sprout from his back, letting him glide over the battlefield. His death grip manifests as a ghostly appendage, grabbing enemy or objects and pulling them within reach, or pulling himself towards his prey. Strife's fighting style is ever adaptable, his arsenal legendary, and his courage unbroken, no matter the odds. And this concludes the Chronicle of Strife, a horseman whose path has wound through blood, regret, and the fires of countless worlds. He is a gunslinger whose humor masks pain, whose loyalty is fierce, and whose judgment is his own. In the crucible of the apocalypse, he stands not just as the Council's weapon, but as a judge of his own fate, forever wrestling with the shadow of what he was and the hope of what he might become. Yet the tale of the Horsemen is not yet finished. The hour of reckoning is at hand for the youngest among them, the most steadfast, iron-willed, and duty-bound. Next time, we will ride into the storm with war. Remember to comment, like, share, and subscribe for the final legend. Smash the hype button and join me. This has been Vigil from Video Game Lore, and I will see you all in the next one.